What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Figuring It Out Finance Podcast, episode 111, where we're going to be talking about what's keeping you from getting started in real estate. So today I'm going to be covering that. And if you've never listened to this podcast before, my name is Chris Rickenbaugh, and I'm documenting my journey in real estate and business while also talking a little bit about travel hacking and personal finance. You can find me everywhere on figuringitoutfinance.com, as well as wherever you listen to podcasts. We'll have all the links there. And then you can go follow me on TikTok and Instagram, where I post daily about what I'm doing and some of the books I'm reading, as we're going to be talking a little bit about today. So I just finished reading Gap and the Gain, and that's what really sparked this idea about what's keeping you from getting started, because he had a couple really good quotes in there, and I'm like, man, this would be perfect to be able to tie it all in, just to be able to hear and say, like, you know, what is keeping you from getting started? Because I listen to a lot of these people and they have a lot of these excuses that they could never do this. They don't have the time, money, or knowledge. And we're going to be breaking that all down today. So a little bit about me. So we closed on a house about 2 weeks ago. So working through that eviction process, working on another eviction for another house. And then should be closing on one here in a few days, and possibly another one by the end of the month. That's going to be 2 flip projects for us. And as I'm getting text right now about a possible subject to deal that I've been working on for a few months now, and it's just popped back up, and I think we're going to be able to get serious about this one, whether it ends up being a rental for us or being able to live in it ourselves. So going to be interesting coming up here. Got a lot in the works. Currently 6 deals going on at one time, and hoping to get another one. So stay tuned for all of that. And if you missed the last episode, number 110, we were breaking down hard money with an actual hard money lender, Matt Miller at MGM Capital. So if you're looking for some information on hard money from an actual hard money lender, go check out that episode. So with all that being said, let's hop into today's episode. So as I said, I just got done reading Gap and the Gain, and I'm going to sprinkle a couple quotes into today's podcast. It's not going to be super long, so just hang in there. But there are 3 things that's normally keeping people from getting started in real estate, and that's money, knowledge, and time. And I think 2 of those things are really easy to be able to take care of. You know, you just have to be, educate yourself a little bit about it, and then be able to take action. Taking action is the hardest part, because you just have to do it. You can't think about it. You can't talk about it. You just got to go and do it. So let's start off with money. So I think this is one of the things that's really easy to get started, but it seems like the biggest hurdle. So let's say, you're 40 years old, you've been working a steady job, you have a 401k, you have savings. You're going to be able to get started in real estate, and it's not in the exact way that you would think of. So if you're looking to replace your income or build something on the side, you're not going to just buy a normal rental property, because you're going to be putting down about 20% on a property. So let's just say, for example, it's $200,000 for this rental property, and it's going to cash flow you at the best $500. So you're going to have to buy a ton of those to be able to take you out of your job or replace your job or even have more income coming in on the side. You're going to have a ton of these. So what you could do, say you save $50,000, you're going to be able to go flip or wholesale in your market. So finding a flip is going to be a lot easier than wholesaling, because the wholesale comes back to your time, where analyzing a flip, being able to find a crew, it's going to be a little bit less of a process, but you're going to be able to come out a little bit more. Now, this isn't breaking down the numbers on how to do it, but there's going to be money in a lot of different places, whether it's people who have been talking about investing, may already be doing it, where you can invest into somebody else's deal and learn alongside them. Finding the money, that was something I struggled with for a while, and now we're being able to raise money from different people, and it's really just networking. So I think that's one of the easier things to find, because if you end up coming across a really good deal, people who are in this business are going to want to invest in you. And then if you can flip it yourself, you can probably sell that contract to somebody else and make money off of it, which would be wholesaling. So moving on from money here is going to be going to knowledge. So I think this is the absolute easiest thing to be able to get started, because it's everywhere. All this information on how people do this stuff is completely free. Or not free. Well, I guess you could say it's free, because you could listen to podcasts about this, but books are going to be another one. So when I got started in real estate, all I was doing was reading books and listening to podcasts, and I was able to do a live-in renovation on my own. So, and that was just by listening to podcasts, doing exactly what they tell me. Hey, here's how you get your scope of work. Here's how you network with contractors. Here's how you meet them, and how you run your numbers. And I'm like, okay, I can do this. So I did that for my first live-in renovation, and it went, pretty well. And we were able to get the money back out, and then be able to take that money, go full-time in real estate, and eventually get into flipping. So all of this knowledge you can get from books or podcasts, and then it comes into the actual taking action part, which is, networking with people, because if you're doing the books and the podcasts, you're eventually going to be able to get there if you're motivated enough. So that leaves me into the hardest part of all of this, and it's the most interesting one, because time, you always think you have time for this, or, when I hit this mark, I'll finally have time for this. The thing is, it's never going to be easier than it is at this moment. So the best time to invest was yesterday, and the second best time is today. So the people waiting for this, perfect moment to be able to invest, it's just not going to happen. And the most famous quote, I talked about it on TikTok yesterday and Instagram, is that, being able to, so time in the market is better than timing the market, because you're never going to have that perfect timing. I mean, anybody who tried to predict COVID probably didn't. So that came out of nowhere. So that's what you're trying to predict, is the ups and downs, and there's people that get good at it, but you're going to have to put in 80 hours a week, and you're not going to be able to do that if you're trying to, get out of your job. So the timing, you just need to get started. So a lot of people, they make up a lot of these excuses about why they can't do it. Maybe they heard something their uncle told them about real estate, and they're like, well, I can't get in it. The market's bad, this and this. It's like, but what does that person know? So that comes into your past, and what you've told in your past, it's a story. So The Gap and the Gain has this really good quote that says, your past is just a story, and once you realize this, it has no power over you. So all of these made up stories, or this thing you heard once from this one person, it really has no leverage over you, because if you're able to fact check it and say, oh, well, they haven't done real estate. Oh, do I really want to be in their financial position? That's the questions you start asking. And once you fact check that, it's, really simple to say, okay, so who are the people being really successful in this? And then you go follow them, you join their community. So I did that with Cam Cathcart on Deal Flow. I was expecting 15 grand extra. So I still made a little profit on my first flip, but I'm like, where's this 15 grand extra I thought I was going to get? So I ran the numbers the way that he taught me, and I'm like, oh, that's exactly where the 15 grand went. I should have bought it 15 grand lower, and that was it. So being able to understand that, and then just be able to go after and learn from the people who are doing it and doing it at a high level, they're going to make, the impossible seem like a Tuesday morning. And that's another quote I've heard lately, but, being able to go through these lessons to where it's like, I should have done this. And it's like, those are lessons. So lessons are going to be repeated until they are learned. So that's another quote from The Gap and the Gain. So if you find yourself behind and you're being what they would call in the gap, you're not learning that lesson. So these people who, get taken advantage of on money or don't know how to invest it, they're going to be, they're going to have to keep learning that lesson until they understand it, to where that they can't wait any longer. And that's the biggest thing with your time, because, right now, so just recently married, and I think back to a little over a year and a half ago, to where, I was single and I'm like, oh man, I have all this time, I can relax, and then, end up getting married, and now there's just a little bit less time. And then you start thinking about, kids and family down the road, to where your time and your life is going to be, really busy. And you're like, oh, well, maybe I'll have time when they grow up. But then your kids get into sports, and then they go off to college, and you're like, oh, well, I'm retired. It's too late now. That's all about time, because it's the easiest excuse to use. So being able to get started now and figure it out is going to be, the biggest factor out of all of this. So I'm going to stop right there, just because I think that is the most interesting factor out of all of this and what's keeping you from getting started. And time is the biggest one. You might be young, but you might have no money, but you can go find that money. You can educate yourself. You can join communities that people want to invest with you. And then you have all the time to be able to consume that knowledge, to where you can understand this at a deeper level, break this down for somebody, and then they want to invest with you. But taking the action and not waiting, and that's the time part, is going to be the biggest part. So that's going to be episode 111 here from What's Keeping You from Getting Started. And as I said, Breaking Down Hard Money with Matt Miller, that was episode 110. So that was a really, really good episode, and my first podcast interview that I've done. So looking to do a couple more of those. So always interested in topics, what people are interested in learning, and maybe just on flipping, since that's what I'm doing. So that's going to be all for this podcast. Thank you for tuning in, and I will be back on Friday with another one. This is Chris Rickenbaugh signing off for the Figuring It Out Finance podcast. We'll see you next time.